Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. I trust you had a wonderful and long holiday break. So many things happened over that holiday. Coming to Africa, China is pouring money into sub-Saharan Africa, says Bloomberg Opinion, all about demography. Only 3 African countries have a median age over 20, Mauritius 36, Seychelles 33, Tunisia 32. In 32 countries, the median age is under 20. The 7th World Happiness Report, Africa is circa 20% below the global average. Why is Africa so unhappy? Asks Dixon Magecha. Protesters have suspended talks with Sudan's military government. This is according to Sky News. Sarah Abdel Galil, spokeswoman for the Sudanese Professional Association, said, "Our words are clear. We're not calling for a parallel government. We are calling for a handover. They have to recognize that the masses are in a strong position. Either you kill the people or you surrender to what they are asking." And this takes me back to something I wrote at the time of Ouagadougou. And I said, what's clear is that a very young, very informed, very connected African youth demographic, which many characterize as a demographic dividend, but which for beautiful Blaise turned into a demographic terminator, is set to alter the existing equilibrium between the rulers and their subjects, and a rebalancing has begun. We need to ask ourselves, how many people can an incumbent or a military transitional council or whomsoever shoot stone cold dead in such a situation? 100? 1,000? 10,000? This is another point. There is a threshold beyond which the incumbent can't go. Where that threshold lies will be discovered in the throes of the event. Therefore, the preeminent point to note is that protests in Burkina Faso achieved escape velocity. Overthrowing incumbents is all about acceleration, momentum, and speed, best characterized by the German word blitzkrieg. The Sudanese pound surged on the black market on Sunday, trading at 45 to the dollar against 72 last week. The Sudan's army ruler has vowed to hand over power to the people, but his actions are not saying the same. Hi, Sudan is up high. Huge crowds of protesters chanted, "Our revolution is civilian and protected by the people." They also chanted freedom, and whether the regime falls or not, we are staying. Burhan said the council is committed to give power to the people in his first interview on state television since taking power. His supporters, the UAE, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Israel, will not be interested in what he's proposing. I don't think they can buy off the crowd. I really don't. From what I have seen unfold in front of my eyes, I think we're watching an inflection point in the battle between the street and the regime. And Sudan is a turning point. You'll find no one rejecting anyone else. This is a dream. This is a different country made by a new generation, said Mutas Osman. Osman insisted protesters would not be duped. They're trying to cheat us, but we won't go until this whole Islamist government is removed. You'll find Muslims here, you'll find Christians, you'll find atheists and artists and poets and mutas. Arab Spring and the geopolitics of Sudan, the fact of the matter is that regimes in Egypt, Saudi Arabia and the UAE genuinely fear that if revolution succeeds in Sudan, there could be a domino effect which may threaten their own autocratic regimes. Sudan and Algeria are the current battlegrounds. The autocrats have been overthrown in mass upheaval. But how far this revolutionary situation translates as democratic transition is still far from clear. On the face of it, the odds are heavily stacked against democratic transition. Presently, the 3 most powerful regional states in the southern tier, Saudi Arabia, UAE and Egypt, are staunchly opposed to any democratic transition in Sudan. Meanwhile, in Libya too, a strongman is on the march, with support from Egypt, the UAE and Saudi Arabia. Ironically, Turkey and Iran have remained ambivalent. Taking all factors into account, therefore, even if the protests in Sudan force the military to compromise and make way for civilian rule, that may prove only a temporary arrangement. The Saudis and UAE will bankroll the military with a view to prop up a strongman in Khartoum eventually. The high probability is that another strongman with military backing and foreign support is waiting in the wings. I don't think it's tenable. Take you back to the Kapuscinski. If the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, we say the revolution is over. And clearly in this instance we can see the crowd is aware of that danger. The choice of that moment is the greatest riddle of history. Very interesting piece by Tarek Sheikh in Jacobin Mag toward Sudan's next revolution. Arrested at the beginning of the 1970s on his way to prison, the popular Sudanese poet Mahjoub Sharif wrote a fervent prayer. When will it clear the sky of our dear Khartoum? When will it be healed, the country's wound? And then it took me back to Bouazizi. We're not afraid, we're not afraid, we're afraid only of God. That is the tipping point moment for any regime. Bashir suffered a mini stroke a few days ago and has been refusing to eat, so he had to be force-fed via a feeding tube. He is in stable condition, but his psychological state is constantly deteriorating. As I said in January, Bashir is a political Harry Houdini, otherwise he would not have lasted more than 3 decades. But it's clear these are the last days or the end times. I reminded you of that old Sudanese revolutionary song, "We sing in our prison as you tremble in your castle." The crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old is dying and the new cannot be born. I said in that same article, in Africa in particular, a lot of leadership is in the departure lounge, but Bouteflika is surely the most extreme example. Another example is here, police Uganda breaking into Bobi Wine's car and arresting him. President Museveni is running a little bit scared. Senior figures in the ruling ZANU-PF are profiteering by buying currency at the official rate and selling it at the unofficial rate. I wrote about the government's voodoo economics in October 2018. The South African all-share is up 12.3% year to date. Dollar rand, last time I looked, 14.174. I said it was a buy below 14. Egyptian EGX30 is up 13.54% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange is down 5.65% this year. This selfie's gone viral. Guerrillas strike a pose for selfies with anti-poaching rangers. The Daily Nation leads with William Ruto, portrait of a politician under siege. Tax receipts between July and March 2019 stood at 102 trillion, compared with 939.37 billion, leaving the taxman with a 585.27 billion gap to bridge in 3 months to meet his full-year target. An outbreak of cholera in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, has infected at least 58 people. Kenya shilling, last time I looked, 101.375. Nairobi all-share up 12.72% so far this year. EABL says it could increase prices of products if the Treasury implements a proposal to raise corporate tax from 30 to 35% for firms with an annual income of more than 500 million shillings. EABL trades on a PE ratio of 29.798. NSE 20 is up 1.28% year to date. And with that, I thank you for stopping by.